Video cameras have become a really important part of life these days. The quality has gone up, the price has gone down. Just a quick look on YouTube shows you that almost everyone now has a video camera. Now, unfortunately, YouTube's also a good spot to showcase how the quality and watchability of videos isn't all that great. You can drastically improve the quality of your videos just by not having them shake. A tripod is a great way to start, but what about moving shots like pans and dollies? A steady mount is a great cost-effective way to smooth these out. There are lots of different versions of steady mounts that you can make online. Some of them are very cheap and just use plumbing parts and weights. Now don't get me wrong, I have no issues at all about using plumbing parts to build something, or even garbage. But I don't want it to look like it's made out of plumbing parts. I want it to look cool and professional. Also, can you imagine trying to take it on an airplane and trying to explain why you've got sections of pipe in your suitcase? Hello, cavity search. Now some of you are saying, now why would I need that? My camera has image stabilization on it. Now image stabilization is great for handheld, standing still shots. But as soon as you start to move, the image stabilization can't tell what is vibration and what is intentional movement. Also, if you turn your image stabilization off, you get longer battery life. Others might balk at this project and say, well, I'm a post-production ninja. I can get all the shakes out on my computer. Well, shakes, yes, but motion blur, not so much. You start out with a nice crisp shot, and your post-production will be a lot easier, your quality will be higher. And you only got to build this once, and it's good for all your shots from now on. Here's Ben to show you how to do it.
Well, thanks, Dave. Now, when you're trying to get a steady camera shot, a lot of the Fig rigs and Merlin Steady Cams and all sorts of other Steady Cam systems out there, they're really expensive. And what drives me crazy is that you can build one that actually looks quite professional in a few minutes. This one here, it does take up quite a bit of space, but it only takes a few minutes to actually get this thing together. First, I'll demonstrate how it works. So, it just balances off of a couple of weights here, which is nothing more than some washers hooked together with basically a 1/4 inch 20 screw and a wing nut. This is just PVC piping, and I have no idea what this length was. I just sort of guessed. But what you'll notice is that now I can take the camera, I can wiggle it back and forth, no problem whatsoever, and it's not going to go anywhere. And this is just a ball joint system that you can get at pretty much any camera store. But one advantage that I thought of with this guy here is that you can actually probably get a boom shot by using this guy on the one arm. So it turns out to be quite effective. This one also, one thing you got to keep in mind when you're dealing with a lot of these steady cams is to get it so that it does this. Takes a long time to calibrate these weights. You got to sit here and kind of tweak where they are, make sure there's enough weight on either side. And I'm pretty sure this will show you a good demonstration. As it's balanced perfectly square here, as soon as I open that, you'll notice that the camera tilts off to the side. So it's very sensitive to weight. Keeping all that in mind, it also means it's very sensitive to tune. So here, what I'll do is I'll show you what this thing is made of. It's actually quite simple. I went to a camera store and got a little hot shoe. You can buy these hot shoes pretty much anywhere. And I also got this little gimbal joint. And of course the monopod. So the gimbal joint is a Joby. This one works fairly nice. It was about $40 Canadian, be about $40 US now. And it screws onto pretty much anything. The monopod, I got a Manfrotto. Yes, it is fairly expensive. This one not so much. It's about $35, but you can probably find a lot of these on eBay really, really cheap. You don't really need to spend a whole lot of money on them. And then this is the hot shoe. And I'll show you here in a minute on the build how this is all done. So I drilled a couple of holes into the hot shoe mount, and it is a 1/4-20. So you can see right here, just a couple little holes. That's all I had to do. Drilled them in, tapped it, works really fine. At that point, we have a couple of pieces of PVC, a 45, or actually 2 45s, and some end caps. Now, one thing that you'll notice is when I'm building it looks very unprofessional. I'll show you how you can make things look professional. It's really difficult. That's all you have to do. If you want to make something look a little more professional, throw a little coat of paint on it. It's pretty amazing what happens when you do that.
Here's the build for the first of 2 steady systems in this episode. First, cut 1 3/4-inch PVC pipe, 6 inches long, and 2 18 inches long. Get 2 45s and 2 end caps and test fit things together. Next, you will be making the hot shoe base, the part that mounts to the tripod. Drill 2 holes about 1 inch apart that you can tap 1/4-20 threads into. The drill size for this is 13/64. Mark and punch the locations, drill, and tap. Mark the holes in the top center of the 6-inch PVC and drill 1/4-inch holes to match the tap ones on the hot shoe. At the bottom of the 16-inch pieces, about 1.5 inches from the bottom for the washers. One thing to note is that all of this is using 1/4-20 bolts and wing nuts. Test fit everything together by adding just enough weight to keep the camera from flipping over. Swing the long arms forward and back to level the camera. Be patient and just keep tweaking until the camera stays level. And then pull it apart for the paint. You're done in less than 20 minutes.
So the next system I'm going to show you here, this is very similar to a Merlin Steady Cam. This is like $3 in aluminum. I had to drill it a couple holes, and a little gimbal. This is called a rod end. It's off of a hydraulic part. You can probably find it at McMaster, Harbor Freight, and in Canada you can find it at Princess Auto. So what I'll do is actually I'll assemble it first. Now the one thing you got to do is you have to place the hot shoe right on top. So what I did is I just cut a slot in the top of that bar, and then I was looking for a thumb screw, much like you get off of these hot shoes. You get the, let's see, the bottom here. Here's a good example. You get these screws here called thumb screws, and they're kind of a, well, they're a hard item to find. So I started looking around Home Depot, and what I found is that if you go into the hardware department, they have furniture leg ends, and they happen to be a 1/4-20. So you take one of those, you cut the end off, and now you have a really nice, easy to spin nut. I'll place a washer on there just to make it a little easier. Now, one thing you can keep in mind here is that I'm putting a hot shoe on here so I can take the camera off fast if I really need to. but you really don't have to have the hot shoe. You can screw the camera directly down on top of the mount if you want. So now with the hot shoe, with the quick twist, I can move it forward and back. And when you're trying to tune these, it is very important that you can do this fairly quickly and easily, otherwise you'll be cursing. It is not a fun job to try and figure out how to set these things up. So we got the camera on there, and you can see it's not quite right. It's leaning forward and off to the side. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, so you notice that it's a bit off to the side. And as soon as I close that door, it stays perfectly level. It's still leaning a bit back. Okay, that's not too bad. So now we can shake back and forth, and it holds fairly steady. I'll show this other camera here. So when you go side to side, it holds out pretty good. And I'll show you quickly how this all goes together. So you grab this bar here, bend it up in the old vise, and even just taking this happens to be my belly arch, which happens to work out quite well, and you just drill a couple holes into it and be able to add your weights. So you got a little PVC handle, you've got the PVC cup, or the end cap, just to go onto it. And all I did was drill a hole and throw the gimbal or the rod end into it. So there's your end cap, and here's the gimbal. Now, one thing that you find is that when you buy these little guys, they don't necessarily come fairly loose and nice and wobbly, but that can be cured quite fast. What you do is take a drill, chuck the threaded part in, not too tight, you don't want to strip the threads, and then find something that's got a little abrasive in it that you can use to basically loosen things up. So you can use toothpaste. I find that Brasso is another good one. We're just going to put a little drop right on the ball on one side, on the other. You don't need much of this stuff. And spin it up. If you run it for a minute or two, what you'll find is it loosens up and it becomes very, very smooth action. And you'll notice now that this is very, very loose, and that's exactly the way you want it, nice and smooth. Like, you know, give the ball, make sure you give it a good wipe, maybe even run it under some water for a little bit. Make sure everything's good, and then find some bike chain lube is what I like to use, or graphite, or say a silicone lubricant. The last thing that I did is at the end, I knew that if I threw weights just directly on the end that I'd end up having to bend this bar. Knowing that was going to be very sensitive, I needed to be able to throw the weights off to the side. So all I did was I cut an extra little tab and just put this guy, one washer in there, another screw, so you just have the arch piece as it is, and then another tab like this. I happen to fluke out and get about the right length of tab, but what I'd recommend you do is, like much like on this guy right here, the slot cut, I would do the same right there, maybe make it about an inch long just so you can vary it in and out. And again, just a 1/4 20 bolt and a wing nut and a bunch of washers, and that's all you need to make this happen.
Take a piece of 1 inch by 1/8 aluminum that you can get at any hardware store and cut 2 pieces, one 30 inches in length and another 4 inches in length. Drill a 5/16 hole for the rod end 3/4 of an inch from the end, centered from side to side. Bend over a tab about 2 inches long on the 30-inch strap, and at the end you just drilled. 6 inches past the last bend, make another at about 30 degrees for the start of the arc. Gently bend the long length of the strap to form a nice smooth arc, so that the end is directly below the 2-inch tab. Drill a 5/16 hole in the top of a PVC cap. Test fit the rod end on the bent strap. Mark out the slot on the top of the 6-inch section. And drill it out along its length, spacing the holes just slightly less than a 1/4 inch apart with a 1/4 inch bit. Then Dremel and file the slot to be 4 inches long, centered on the 6-inch section. Drill a 1/4 inch hole, 1/2 inch from the edge of the bottom of the arc, and one on each end of the 4-inch tab. Fix the tab and the bottom of the arch together with a 1/4 inch bolt and wing nut. On the other end of the tab, put on some washers for weight with a 1/4 inch bolt and a wing nut. Mount the hot shoe to the slot at the top. Mount the camera and start balancing it. This can take a long time, and a good resource for how to balance the rig is at YouTube. Look up Hague Mini Motion Cam Setup Guide.
Well, there you have it. There's your Steadicam systems, and they're all on the cheap. It should work out really well for you. You don't have to be out of pocket to actually get a good shot. And I'd like to see a whole lot better video on YouTube for all those people that give all the shaky video. You make me nauseous. Stop it!